Oh hey, didn't see you there. Did you see these really cool cutting boards I made? Well, in this video, I'll show you how you can make them yourself for super cheap. So it is me from the past, and I'm standing on top of a Festool Sustainer to grab the wood off of my scrap wood shelf. Just grabbing whatever scraps of hardwood that I have. All right, so I have some boards here. I'm gonna let you know how much this costs so I can show you how affordable or not affordable cutting boards are to make. So because the wood is rough, because I buy all my wood rough sawn, I'm gonna have to use the joiner and the planer to mill all the wood and get it perfectly flat and square. Now, when you're building cutting boards, it is important to use the right kind of glue. You don't want to use a non-waterproof glue for a cutting board, as then it will fall apart. So I like to use Titebond 2 or Titebond 3 for cutting boards. I'm using Titebond 2 this time in the chocolate dark flavor. So let's glue these cutting boards up, just simple edge joinery with some clamps. Let's call it good. New day, new haircut. Cutting boards are now dry and out of the clamps. One little tip I may give, these little call blocks are perfect for keeping the boards perfectly aligned. And I wrapped them in tuck tape or sheathing tape, so that way the glue doesn't stick to them. That is the best tape because glue won't stick to it. Anyway, now I'll just use a chisel and clean off all this glue. Probably use some sandpaper as well, and then I'll run them through the planer just to get them down to their final thickness and get things clean. All right, so now that I look at these boards, I think they're a little bit plain. So I'm gonna draw a squiggly line, cut the board in half, and sandwich a piece of wood to add some interesting factors to it. Alright, so now I'm at the router table where I'm going to chamfer the undersides of this. I always chamfer the undersides of every single cutting board I make because it gives it a nice floating effect. And on top of that, I'm going to give the boards a nice round over on the top with a trim router. Alright, so now it's on to the least enjoyable part of any woodworking project, and that's sanding. As always, I'm going to do my usual 80 grit, 120 grit, and then 180 grit. So, let's get sanding. I've got it sanded to 120 grit now, and what I'm going to do is water hop the boards. Now, I'm not going to go into full detail with this because I've gotten into detail in a couple other videos. You can check out my Christmas tree cutting board if you want, or I made a couple cutting boards last year. I explained the water popping process as well, so you can go check that out. Alright, so now it's on to the finishing. I'm going to be using walrus oil cutting board oil, as that's what I usually use for cutting boards. It's great stuff, I highly recommend it. But now I'm just going to apply it simply with a rag, give it a few coats, and then this project's almost done. So now I've got one last step, and that's to install the cutting board feet. Alright, that's going to be it for the end of this video. I don't have the cutting boards on me, sadly, because I'm not at my shop, and I don't have the camera equipment. But I think they turned out great, the inlays turned out really well, and they're just super cheap cutting boards. In total, I spent less than $50 on materials. The cutting boards would value around $150 based on what I would charge for them. So I'd say that is pretty cheap to make cutting boards, just 50 bucks for $150 worth of cutting boards. 3 cutting boards, $50 each. I'd say that's a win. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. The number one thing you can do is like, comment, and subscribe. Those all really help the channel. As well as I have an Instagram where I'm more active there at rpadbuildsthis. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.